I know, before we get here.
Open it.
I don't want. Struggle. No, it's up. You're good.
It is the feet getting it open.
Airtight, right? That was, get over this, okay?
Air pressure, I think, was the reason.
Have a good evening, Mary. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good evening. Thanks, Nick.
He keeps passing it along, but I don't
I'm
think
good.
he was afraid to open it.
Anybody in the audience need to make hands? No, I don't know where they come from. I'm not even.
He looks like a harmless old guy, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, maybe the person that gave them to him wasn't. Anytime you're ready. The meeting's about to get real interesting.
Aaron, you can go ahead.
Okay.
You know when you want to start. You ready to start?
All right, let's get going. All right, it is 7:19. We'll call the April 9th, 2024 Select Board meeting to order. Before we do anything, I want to mention the passing of Paul Bryant on Sunday. Super sad. Paul was a great citizen of this town. And I'll just look from his obituary. I mean, we know he was the harbor master for 50 years, which means he started when he was like 5. But he was also on the in the fire company for 20 years and fire chief for 15 years. So our condolences go out to Linda and the rest of Paul's family. Amendments to the agenda. Can I have a motion to add the LCP, Lincoln County Regional Planning Commission appointments to the agenda?
Yeah, so
Tor, seconded by Joel. All in favor? All right.
Thank you.
5-0, yep. So we'll put that as item 5D. We'll have to table the approval of the minutes from March 25th to the April 22nd meeting because we don't have them right now.
I apologize. They're done. They're just not in your packet, so.
Okay. No problem. Do we have any public comments on items not on the agenda now? None? All right, then we will move on to new business 5A. We have an abatement. Okay, this is a pretty simple one. Someone was being charged for acreage they didn't have, so we have $117.53 abatement because the acreage was corrected. Do I have a motion to authorize the abatement for Tasneem Zaidi in the amount of $117.53?
So moved.
By Rufus,
Second that.
seconded by Tom. Anyone have any questions on it?
I did not ask Jim to come to this meeting for that.
$117.
Yeah.
I think we're good.
I can.
All right, then all in favor? All right, passes 5-0. 5B, ballot questioning on the restructuring of the GSB school district.
Lindsay, you want to come up? Fortunately for me, our school superintendent is here to talk a little bit about this and explain why it's in front of you tonight versus fully on the ballot. And for the 22nd, when we'll have a lot of the other ballot questions. I can also pull some of those up on the screen too.
Great, that.
Yeah, Mr. Host, would you mind allowing me to share screen?
Good evening. Thank you for having me here tonight. There's been a lot of information that's gone out in the newspaper, but I did ask if I have the opportunity to be here in case you had questions or any specifics that you wanted to know about what we're proposing with the district. One of the questions that I've had the most is, what is it you're doing? This is too confusing. So I created a packet for you where it starts with what we have as a current model and takes you through each step that we are proposing and how that looks visually, plus a couple of bullet points about why we think this is a worthwhile proposal for people to consider. So right now we have an AOS that has 7 towns, 8 districts, 9 school boards, and 5 schools that we have to operate. And it is logistically a nightmare to manage all of that. And our towns are not in sync with each other in terms of meeting the AOS interlocal agreement parameters around common calendars, common curriculum and programs, collective bargaining agreements, policies, any of those types of topics. So we're looking at ways to streamline the district, the efficiencies in the district. It was clear right away that many people didn't want their children to change schools or to have any impact to the schools. So every change that happens in here does not affect staff or students day to day in any way, shape, or form. It is structural changes that will affect central office administration and make it hopefully a little bit easier for town offices instead of having multiple documents to pull budget numbers from and figure out the tax impact. So in this packet, you can see the first page has that AOS structure. The second page goes into Great Salt Bay becoming an RSU. Right now, Great Salt Bay is a K-8 CSD, and we have 3 separate boards for the high school students. The high school students, one for each town. High school students, we simply pay tuition out and transportation. There's no other costs that we manage for those secondary boards. So combining those into one pre-K to 12 district gets rid of 3 separate boards, 3 separate sets of meetings, 3 separate budgets, 3 sets of state reports, 3 sets of grant management, all of that, and pulls it into one K-12 or pre-K-12 district. Great Salt Bay is proposing pre-K for the coming year with up to 32 slots. We're super excited about the impact on the community for that. But that's an aside. That's coming in Great Salt Bay's budget. So Jefferson, Noblesboro, Bristol, and South Bristol right now are already K-12 districts. So we're very used to managing a K-12 system that tuitions out. We're simply proposing that Great Salt Bay becomes that same structure to house pre-K to 12. That's what we have on your ballot or requesting to have on your ballot in June is the authorization by voters to approve Great Salt Bay, Damascus, and Newcastle and Bremen Secondary combining to become one Great Salt Bay RSU. That does require voter approval, so we're asking for that to be on the June ballot. The other components that we're talking about are to form an ESC, which is an Educational Service Center. That's a structure by the state that we would move our business functions only into, and we would receive subsidy. Each member district would receive subsidy for every student they have that would come in. You receive subsidy for half of the director's salary. And we would take the highest paid person that is a part of that ESC, which would be the business manager, and give them the director title, which would maximize our subsidy back from the state by getting 55% of that back with our subsidy. And then you also can receive money for the services that you need to have the supplies you need to implement things. So if we need software to manage our fiscal systems, the state would help us purchase that software. So that's another way to access back some of the money. And as many of us say, we're already paying into the state anyway, let's access what we can back through our system as well. By forming that ESC, it leaves the AOS with a superintendent and special ed director, director of student services. Those are more educational roles instead of operational roles. And we're hoping to tailor those roles more to the specific districts that are in front of us. We have very different town politics in the 7 towns that we have, and very different desires from the management at central office. What we're hoping to do is eventually get that split into 2 separate roles. We have 4 positions right now, a superintendent, assistant superintendent, director of student services, and assistant director. We would take 2 to one side and 2 to the other and divide them. So same number of positions, same budget impact, and divide them so that one person is focusing on Great Salt Bay, K-12 RSU, and one person is focusing on the other towns. So that everybody can have more direct attention and more time on task from those positions, which hopefully will help with meeting the local control and wishes from each town on what they'd like from those people. The 4th page has Great Salt Bay leaving the AOS, and this is my favorite chart. It's super pretty. Just saying. That chart is where Great Salt Bay becomes the pre-K to 12 RSU, and they decide that they want their own superintendent. They would withdraw from the AOS, and that person would focus on just them. I have recommended to the board, the Great Salt Bay Board, that that be a part-time position. I don't think they would need a full-time superintendent to cover that pre-K 12. So that would be a little bit of a reduction in cost as well, cost and time. They would need a full-time director of student services. There are a significant number of students, pre-K to 12, just over 100, that have needs, that have IEPs, special placements, et cetera. The person's responsible for overseeing the appropriate placement and meeting legalities for all of those. So I do think that is worth a full-time job. The next page, which looks like this, is the super critical piece that many of your towns have been asking for. This is the proof is in the pudding document that shows you the budget that was approved for the AOS next year. We can make these structural changes and do it with a budget neutral impact. So we can actually have the ESC formed, separate Great Salt Bay into an RSU and separate them from the AOS. And by our projections, it actually would save about $10,000 to the Great Salt Bay budget. So we're calling that budget neutral, and it would not cost the other schools anything either, because we already have those positions budgeted. We're just reassigning them where they are and separating out who has what. This document, I can read it, but I live in this world, so I fully understand if other people have questions. But the FY25 column is exactly what was approved at the December meeting for the AOS budget next year. And then you'll see there's a column that says new AOS, ESC, and GSB. So that separates out, the ESC has everybody in it for their business functions, but the AOS has the 4 schools, the 4 other schools for their superintendent and special ed director, and Great Salt Bay has just their K-12 district. The totals are there and the difference, and it adds up to essentially a budget neutral document. The other things in your packet are the draft, and I stress the word draft, formation agreements for the Great Salt Bay RSU and the Educational Service Center. They are the templates that are filled in from the lawyers. They have not been finalized yet. It requires review, negotiation of disagreed upon aspects, and then boards voting to approve that. But I do want them to be out and about for people's eyes and suggestions and feedback. So we do welcome any feedback you have if you see something that doesn't sit right. And I'm going to have a document that has all kinds of suggested changes and the final draft that will go out to everybody as well. That's a very quick overview, quick to me, probably not to you. And I welcome any questions you have now or later. Anytime.
Thank you for saving me from having to try to do that.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you being here, Lindsay.
Just a question. Thanks for doing all this work. I know you guys have been in the weeds for a while on this. So I'm just, aside from you standing by every voting booth in all towns that are going to vote on this,
Right.
I don't know how to. It's a challenge to explain this in a simple article to
Yes.
voters.
Yes.
That's the serious challenge here.
I agree.
And I think that's the question. So I think this Article 3 here, I guess my question is that, Kevin, is that something that you prepared, or is that something that the
This
committee
was,
has prepared?
this is actually from the attorneys, and it's on the screen right now, but it's the exact order, and that's the language I also put in my manager's memo. That is what has to be voted on on the town ballot.
Which one?
Yeah.
The Article 3.
The one that's readable.
Yes.
Do you favor approving the school administrative reorganization plan? So what we have to do is figure out how to take
Yep.
what this reorganization plan is about to become. It's a draft still, but it has to be finalized. Then once that's finalized, we have to go out and basically cheerlead it to help people understand this is not a cost prohibitive. It doesn't affect students. It is just a way to simplify the administrative component of the school district.
And the board members and I are prepared to do that cheerleading as
Great.
well. We are prepared to, I'm coming to meetings in all the towns. We've had public meetings at Great Salt Bay as well. There've been plenty of articles in the Lincoln County News as the process has gone, but we plan on submitting more articles and information packets to Lincoln County News. We also plan on using our email mailing list from the towns and from Adult Ed, which has a huge mailing list base as they send out their flyers to everybody across the town, to send out much shorter documents, like a 1-page, it says this is what we're talking about. And potentially have board members, available around voting time in case people do have questions going in. So we're aware of the need to communicate it well and how complicated it can be. But all 9 board members from Bremen, Newcastle, and Damascotta have said they will help me get out and about in every town doing that.
Yeah, just one recommendation or thought you might consider is, you know, a lot of times the voter or somebody holding the ballot will read a question if it's, you know, if it's been prepared or recognized by a committee
Mhm.
of authority or organization, whatever, that's sometimes good enough, right? So it might be helpful to highlight who the reorganization planning committee was,
Okay,
who the members were, just so
it's a good idea.
they can, somebody can, you know, that's getting this information, determine what they're gonna vote, how they're gonna vote. They can say, oh, I know that person.
I
Let me
trust
just-
that
Let me just
person.
call, yeah, I
Call
trust that
them.
person, or hey, that guy lives 2 doors down, I can call him. You know, that-
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
One question I assume we're gonna get is, I understand how it's gonna make it easier to not have to deal with all these boards and such, but people are probably gonna ask, if you're not gonna save us money, why do we need to do this?
Yeah, that's,
So what's the answer to that question?
So one of our answers is the greater ability to have local control over the district, which is really important in Mid-Coast Maine. We're finding that the towns really do not want to consolidate more than they already have been, you know, for the last however many years. I mean, we heard earlier here tonight, someone said 35 years ago that discussion happened. People here have long memories and they like what they know. But these towns really do like local control. They don't really care, to be blunt, about what's happening in the other schools as long as they know what's happening in their school and if they trust it. And one of the biggest benefit of doing this is that we can separate the business services to the side and streamline them and really give a superintendent part-time and a special ed director to focus in on just the students of Newcastle, Bremen, and Damascotta, and really, you know, think about the programs that we want in those schools. Pre-K coming this year, that's going to be a huge addition that we've been working on or talking about for years. And we look to then have further modernization of some of our programming. So the attention and local control is our biggest asset.
And other monies that we're gonna go.
Yes, so Bremen really benefits well from becoming an RSU, a K-12 RSU. They'll get an additional $86,000 in subsidy. That's because school towns have an incentive to join the RSU, full-time special ed member receivers have impact that. So that will bring an additional subsidy which will help reduce the additional local cost. One of the aspects that needs to be decided up on the agreement is does that
is whatever department clearly shows financial. So, and that one has been transferred a couple of times, and then with that one, in some respect, that lease has been sold, several times.
Will that work?
Keep going then, let's see.
Okay.
Let's see.
Are we making a motion
Yeah, I was gonna look and see if we have,
to consent? You want to read it?
Are you getting it now?
I need about 30 seconds.
Oh,
to
okay.
catch up.
hold on for a second, but
There it is. That was it.
Kevin, you are a technical wizard.
No, just notice my sound was on and I was like, oh, I should turn it off. And it was actually because I don't know, something along those lines.
Okay.
Thank you, Zoom.
Do I have a motion to consent to George Foe Inc.'s request to have a standard lease of suspended culture oysters that has a corner of the DMR recognized site within an intertidal location? It just moved by Joel, seconded by Tom. Right, any other discussion or questions? Nope, then all in favor? All right, you got it.
Okay.
Happy oyster. Thank you.
I'll send you the certified version as well as to Josh
Okay.
later this week.
Great.
Okay, thanks, George.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
All right. Oh, this one's quick and easy. New business 5D. We can discuss it after the motion if you want to, but do I have a motion to appoint Mal Carey and George Parker to the LCRPC board through June 30th, 2024? Moved by Joel, seconded by Tom. Does anyone have any questions? I know they should have been,
Have they been approached and are they well?
they've been on it.
So I haven't met George Parker, but Mal tells me he's interested still.
Yeah.
And the intent is to get them through the rest of this year and then reappoint with the group of everybody else for that next 3-year extension or whatever. Because we are supposed to be doing quite a few
Great.
appointments or reappointments at that first June meeting. So we're gonna have it going first.
July meeting, I guess. If you're after the.
After, sorry, second June meeting. Your first June meeting of the new select board should be approving the appointments and
Yeah, okay,
reappointments.
good. All right. Then all in favor? You win, Mel. You're official.
Congratulations and condolences.
Well, now I can vote next week and
And feel good about it.
And have them count it.
some of us require a formal reassurance.
Some of us, the mouths of the world.
Well, it isn't just the mouths.
Okay, all right.
All right, then on unfinished business, 6A, appointment to the Board of Appeals. We have somebody we need to reappoint.
Leonardo.
Yep.
Had expressed interest back in June of last year. And I reconnected with him in December, and then he had a few family things he was dealing with, like having a baby. So he was a little busy. And then finally was, oh yeah, I'll join the appeals. So he's willing to come back. He was on the board previously.
Okay.
So he's gonna come back to the appeals board.
All right, then do I have a motion to reappoint Leonardo M. D. Avizato to the Board of Appeals with a term expiring June 30th, 2026? Moved by Rufus, seconded by Joel, all in favor? All right, passes 5-0. 6B, additional amendments to the fiscal year 25 budget. Okay.
Yeah,
So we did, this is all stuff that we just did in the workshop, yeah?
correct. You're formalizing some of the stuff that we've talked about previously. I provide a little more context for both the, I'm sorry, I just stopped sharing and I shouldn't have done that. There's sort of what we came up with in that meeting about roads that we were going to include. And then, and additionally, I've gotten some more information from the schools about their budgets. So what's in the calculator now kind of shows, without the yeses shows a certain number, and then with the yeses shows another number. And tonight's the night to try to solidify some of this so I can give you some warrant articles with those numbers populated.
Yeah, these are we took out a few little things and then added.
Mhm.
um,
Has them now.
happened Back in, so
Yep.
that's our total for now. What are we dealing with big numbers these days? Roads, schools. And that's what we agreed on. Unless anybody has anything you want to think about again. Or talk about. That puts us, Yep.
My only hang up on it would be, is it obtainable within a reasonable amount of time? That's my only
Yep.
concern, because, I mean, we can, I have no issue with doing all the work has to be done. But are we taxing too far ahead or raising these funds too far ahead?
I think we asked that question of
So-
somebody that
And
he
he
could do
said he
it.
could do it.
Yeah,
That's your question, like, does the contractor have capacity to
Yeah.
execute? Okay,
Yep.
Yeah.
got it, yeah.
Because we're also catching up in the first half of this year from funds that weren't spent,
Mhm.
that normally would have been spent by this.
right, but they'll still be spent within this.
Yeah.
Fiscal year, so.
Mm.
All we can do is, if he said he can do it.
Yeah,
guess-
I mean, I'll.
Yeah.
The only two things that, I mean, again, to shift budgets around for whatever reason we do that, you know, the Island Road could potentially go until
Right, the next fiscal year.
the next fiscal year. And then the Hopkins Hill was the one that we added to the list.
Mhm.
That wasn't on the road commissioners list. So those were that was my only thought, is that we added something to
Did
the
we
list
ever?
that wasn't on it, so.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know he had also said that Hopkins Hill is gonna be, that's an old figure. So
And
it's
that-
gonna go, it was only gonna take us so far.
and that's why I'm just,
Yeah.
that's the only reason I'm questioning that, is that did we just, I mean, because
Did we throw
we took something out and we put something else in that wasn't part of the list that was presented to us this year, and then we added something in, and then it pushed the number to what it is, which is, I'm not saying that's what's driving our decision process entirely, but as far as the point you raised, are we, and I know we gotta do something on the road, because people are complaining.
Yep.
But I don't, again, that's not that seems agreeable that you could get some work done at that point. And it sounds like we have people who
We
are
have the obligation to do it.
for, what's that?
We have the obligation to do it. It needs to be done.
Yeah, so that's my only,
Mhm.
that'd be my only question, just because of its location and the rest of the work that's being done. There's not, I mean, again, Hopkins Hill is its own thing,
I have to go back to your wonderful numbers, Rufus, just to if we
but
try to resurface the roads in town in a 20-year cycle.
Yeah.
Just,
We need to be spending this much just to.
Yeah.
Maintain.
Yeah.
Just maintain.
yeah.
So. And hopefully, hopefully all that work can get done. It's not a deluge again like it was last year.
Yeah, although it started off to be one of the rainiest years around lately.
Yeah. Yeah, it's my only fear is that if we keep on compounding. If we aren't able to complete all the work and it just keeps on compounding.
Right.
We're gonna build up a huge reserve in this. And then it's gonna fluctuate taxes on a year-to-year basis based on how much is in that account. But if he seems pretty confident that we can get through all this, then. If we run into the same issue next year.
Yeah.
We might have to rethink how we.
Yep.
How much we're putting in here and dwindle that number down, maybe. Reevaluate.
Yeah.
Scope. Yeah, scope. Yeah.
Or limiting to one contractor,
Mhm.
having an agreement that says there are certain projects that we're gonna find someone else to do just because we want to get these things done.
I think that's a great point. I think historically we haven't fallen too short of what our scope has been.
This year, I mean, we had rain all summer.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I think
But
we
we
had a-
still have time to do it.
we had, I think 2022 did have some carryover, but it was less than 5% of that, I think, but it was very small.
All right, Ben, do you have anything that you were, oh, Mal does. I'll give you a minute to think about it, Ben. Come on, you have a question, come on down, come on, we're microphones now.
Mount Carey was in a stone's throw on a good day of Hassan Ave. Where does Hassan Ave stand in the current, list of, tasks?
It's on here.
Is it in?
Yes.
It is in.
A considerable amount.
Well, given what the roadbed is like, it isn't gonna be cheap.
Nope.
Yeah.
It is well, 2 years ago, I literally bottomed out, going down that to get my vehicle repaired at the end. And,
So you needed more repairs when you got there?
Well, at least it wasn't on his way out of there.
That's
with the
No,
repair
no,
cost.
it's way in, and it was just the downhill run and the momentum that carried me through that, I just got through it.
Jeez.
No record trucks required, but it came really close. So,
Yeah.
and it's better this year because, some of the water control, activities.
Have helped.
The road commissioner is helped, but it's,
The proposed scope of work is pretty extensive. It's installing new base and geotextile fabric and new topping and everything. It'll essentially, from this description, be nearly ready to pave.
Yeah.
By the time we're done with the new culverts and.
so if he's gonna haul all of that stuff out of there, I'd like to have his dump truck, leave it in a place I had marked out, on my driveway.
I mean, Phil,
Well,
one,
let's see if we can work that out, yeah. Thanks, Mel. Do you have anything?
You can at least return your muffler you lost in the. That would be, along with a few others, I mean, they have the cats attached, they're worth something.
It was a skid plate in the, underneath the engine that, took the beating.
Increases your gas mileage when you take that off anyway, your horsepower went up by at least a half.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. That was a no, Ben? You good?
I'm
Comments?
good. I just wondered about the impact, but maybe we're gonna talk about that next.
The impact of,
The total budget.
oh, total, yep.
Yeah.
Nine.
I can I can put it up on the screen here. Now that I've got connected to my
Yeah.
9.51, I think is what it was. So if you were to say,
That's
I
if
think
the
the next
schools don't
page down
change,
is easier to see.
if the schools don't change their tax, or their tax amount, if that's,
right, this includes schools based on our best knowledge. And then 9.51.
Yeah.
Top corner here. So that extra $236,000 for roads brings what I had initially proposed from 880 plus the 236 brings you to the full 1.1 that's in that memo that I provided. So that's what that does. So these 16 items, if you were to, and I want a formal vote with the approval of the select board to make these changes unless you want to modify anything else. That's all in for everything. Everything we've proposed, we've talked about, we've workshopped. We've talked about, we've workshopped. There's lots of memos, there's lots of information if the public wants to. I put everything up online. Everything we've done is online. I have hard copies of some of the stuff that I sent to you electronically here for your binders. But this is your decision.
All right, well,
I-
you have a
yeah.
question?
Well, the only thing, I mean, again, I'm just, it's not really. Not really a huge point, but it's a point, and that I almost, it doesn't, not. Wouldn't affect the budget, but I would almost say that the Hopkins Hill Road work should go into the maintenance line. Where we don't actually have a capital plan for it right now at 150. That's the only thing, if we're just stabbing at a few things, I don't wanna confuse our capital roads. Budget line for something that we're just like throwing 150 to kind of fix some stuff, but we're not actually fixing it.
Question, are we doing it this year or pushing it off?
What's that?
If we move it to maintenance, is the idea to do it this year or?
We'll have to do it this year.
We'd have to do it.
No, like, yeah, so like, that's what I'm wondering, like maintenance next year you're proposing, like pushing it?
No, I'm just saying because it's.
Take it out of the
I'm just saying,
reserves.
Just to keep the project list clean and what we're. what
I
we're-
agree with your premise there.
That's it.
I guess-
That's my only, I don't,
The bottom line is still the same though.
yeah, I don't really care. I don't really, and all I'm saying is does it make more sense to have I mean, there was some stuff in there and I'm not trying to not do Hopkins Hill road work. But I just, that's the only one that I,
Can I add a comment to that?
yeah.
So one of the things we talked about at the workshop was the importance of trying to continue to grow that amount that we put in the reserve for these larger big ticket items that are going to start to hit us in the next couple of years as we further develop that visual, the 5, 10, 15, 20-year repair schedule. I know we're going to need the 1.1, the 1.2 range. So if we move some of that out of the reserve and into the operating budget, how are you approaching those things on a year-to-year basis? So I would say it's a good point, Joel, but I would argue that keeping it in the reserves is a better place because then we know that's our starting point in a given year.
I'm just saying in the future, it should be, I think we should focus on whole projects that are, that are rather, because this one was just kind of pulled out of the, if we want to do an additional project, here's something we could do from a couple of years back. And I just want to make sure that we're keeping it clean and how we're doing it. Again, also with managing workload and stuff like that. So that's my only.
Well, are those types of things that they're gonna do on Hopkins Hill Road, are they more maintenance or are they road improvement?
The road improvements, there's a
Road
drainage work that
improvements.
has to be done.
Which would normally be where in our budget? Under maintenance or capital projects?
Mostly been doing in large capital projects. The problem is we haven't developed the full 5, 10, 15, 20-year work plan. And I'm just trying to make sure we build our reserve, continue to work to build our reserves. Because one of the messages I heard last at our workshop was, if we don't continue to grow it, we're actually falling behind. Well, somebody said that, maybe that was you, Thomas, but somebody said it and it hit me, like we need to at least maintain, if not continue to grow that rather than fall back.
Well, that was after Rufus's numbers showing what we would need to do to pave the road.
Right, and I'm working on a nice visual for that one too, because that was good information that he came up with. I don't have it tonight, but
Anything else then? All right, then,
So everyone's good with keeping it as it's presented right now?
I am right now.
Yeah, I mean,
I have reserve, I can be swayed one way or the other, and when Seth was here talking to us, he said, yeah, I can do something up there, I wanna make sure that I just wanna make sure that we have a good idea as to what we're, again, like,
What's the point? We need a plan.
yeah, what's the plan?
I mean, the scope of work, what he outlines is the scope of work. Half of it seems like maintenance and half of it seems like improvement. So if we wanted to get nitpicky, we'd split it.
No, but in the old days, it was like, we got some culverts going out, let's fix some culverts. And then we threw some pavement over and then, oh, we gotta fix this, and we were chopping things up.
Right.
I'm just saying, if we're gonna do Hopkins Hill. Is it something where we're just doing a couple of fixes on, or is it something that's recommended that we just do it? And
It seems like-
that's the question. I don't wanna throw good, I don't wanna mobilize equipment. I don't wanna, Seth will do whatever we tell him to do.
Right.
And if we're telling him, go up there and kind of do some of the drainage work, but you don't finish it, and then next year you're bringing that same equipment back up and you're kind of doing,
Yeah.
this is the way we used to do shit, or stuff, sorry. Bleep me out, stuff, and, I just want to make sure we're not doing that, and so that's my only objection to that project, is that I just not
It's not
sure,
finished
I'm not
properly.
sure it's totally formulated or finished in a phase, like if it was like phase one, we're gonna go in, we're gonna complete all of this drainage work, and we're gonna chip ledge, and we're gonna change these basins over, and 150 was gonna be good for that, great. And then the next year, we're gonna go and we're gonna do whatever phase. I'm not saying every road we do has to be in that sort of, totally planned out in that 3-year phase. But I just want to make sure that, again, that the 150 we have in here is an accurate number for doing a phase of something to completion that we know we can do, and not set ourselves up for failure with this one. Because all these other numbers are based on today's figures.
I just have an idea.
Yeah.
I mean, if you feel strongly about it, I would recommend that you just make a motion that we move that to maintenance, and, by next year, hopefully we have this bigger plans kind of documented and all the jazz to understand it better, and we'll just try to be better next year, but I mean.
Right, it's not gonna change, it's not gonna change the bottom line, it's not gonna change the reserve bottom line
Yeah.
significantly.
I-
It's a-
I'm kind of
But I'm
indifferent,
also-
but I understand it.
But I'm also saying that, again, I would want to just. I just want to clarify, it's not, so there's the place of the money, there's the place of the whole thing, but again, I just want to make sure that we're not doing something. We're not putting 150,000 in, and 25,000 of that.
It's just moving equipment.
It's throwing good money after bad. Like, I don't want to make this mistake of.
You're saying let's plan for it, we're gonna
Yeah.
do something.
I'm
Let's
saying,
plan on
I'm
it.
saying possibly
Forget about it.
pull this one just for this year, and again, if something happens and we really need to do something. I don't know, you know what I mean?
Well, so are the residents of Hopkins Hill gonna be happier with us saying, okay, we're gonna put you off a year, but when we show up, we're gonna show up in force and really do something about it, versus, well, we're gonna send some people up there and we're gonna make it hard for you to get in and out of your driveway, but we're not really gonna fix the problem.
No, it's been a couple of years he's been proposing doing this,
Okay,
so it's not new. It wasn't just invented. It's been a couple of years he's wanting to
Yeah.
attack some of this stuff.
So I'm just bringing it up
Yeah.
because again, it's just another question. And if we don't have the answer and we keep it in there, that's fine. I mean, it's not the end of the world. Like I said, I just want to make sure that
Yeah, well, how about before we
when we do
do
these,
anything, we have a good plan.
when we do
and see
these
if it fits.
projects, that we have these like.
Yep.
Kind
So how
of
about-
figured.
we keep it in there and we task Seth with actually coming up with a budget to do what that road needs done, so that we know what percentage of this we're actually tackling. And, maybe before he starts on that, he can present us with a little bit more of A to B to C. Here's where we're gonna start, and yeah, you gotta get the trees cut back first, sure, that makes sense.
Or maybe that's not the prescription on there. I mean, again.
Well, but that's just it, we don't know, we have no idea.
That's all I'm saying is
Yeah.
that I think that. So,
It's easy enough if that's not adequate to do what needs to be done and get it done. We can always do another, 1,000 feet of Academy Hill Road that we know needs to be done anyway.
yeah, but
Or, I know, it's not part of the plan, but,
yeah. I'm just,
that is part of, it's a plan. We do have that plan. Or sidewalk. We've got things that we can do to complete some projects that are just being chopped up into a number of years.
Well, so can we task our road commissioner with coming up with a plan for that? And let us
Yeah.
know, giving us an idea. of what
all
it's
I'd
gonna cost?
suggest is this table in it. If it's not, I wouldn't do any work at all to that road. If it doesn't make sense and we need more money to do it, I would say.
Yeah.
Wait, because I don't, like I said, that's the only way we're gonna get value out of this.
Yeah.
Out of this is to
Right.
follow the direction
Yep.
that we get, you know what I mean?
Either be loud or.
It just feels like a while you're here, which is the So I get that line a lot
Yeah.
when I'm working on houses,
Yeah.
and people will say, while you're here, could you also do this? And then when the bill comes out and it's more money, they say, well, why was it more money? And I said, well, you have 17 while you're here, and so that's what you got. But while you're here.
Am I sinking? I'm sinking.
You are.
It's my interview chair. When people come to interview with me, they start high, and by the end of it, they're way down here. Yeah,
We put you in that chair when we interviewed you.
yeah, I remember.
What percentage of the 9.51 or 54 increase is due to the municipal side of the budget, and what percent of that is due to the education side of that?
Well, I'm so glad you asked. Let me share the
I'll
screen.
give you the picture.
I'm sorry, I missed the workshop.
Went up 11%.
Oops. We're up, the municipal piece is 11.83.
Zoom that in a little.
I am really trying.
Good.
Hold on, I gotta unprotect the sheet. Don't look at my password.
School, right now, the education is 5.52%.
Oh, that's gonna be too big. No, it won't. Sorry, my mouse is also the keypad or touchpad, and it's very touchy. So municipal budget's 11.83. The education budget is 5.52.
Yeah, but what are the relative totals? I mean.
The
those percentages.
total expenditure, total budget expenditure is up 8.35, but it's offset a little bit by revenue. So it's actually, it's not, I'm sorry, the revenue is not growing enough to offset that. So the total property tax increase would be a 9.51%.
You go back up just a little bit. Keep going. Yeah, hold on a sec. Okay, so that's what I was trying to understand is what percentage of the total budget are, and we're coming neck and neck here, right? Where municipal budget 3.5, education budget 3.7.
Yep.
That's not that far off.
Nope.
That's one road project.
Yep.
So the majority of the increase is actually on the municipal side, not on the education side.
That's, yep, where you're seeing the 11% versus 5%.
Okay, it's a watershed year for us.
It is a big year for the municipal government to try to catch up. I will say I am concerned about secondary education. It's showing a decrease of about 26,000, but they are using roughly an additional $100,000 in their fund balance to offset their municipal or their school budget.
Yeah, so we'll see a bump next year.
Right. So, well, you did see a sizable bump on the GSB side, which is partially offset by that. And it is our transfer piece, our public works and transfer totals, which is mostly roads, is the sizable increases there.
Yeah, I'm looking at it from, I just wanted to understand relatively the numbers and then, the questions and the at town meeting, the reasoning that'll need to be behind the budget is gonna fall pretty hard on these road decisions. In terms of that 9.51, is it? I keep
Yeah.
forgetting.
9.51.
That's a large percentage overall, for any given year. Six, much easier to sell. 9.51, that's, you might as well call it 10.
Yeah.
It's hard. So I'm not saying it's not warranted. I'm not saying they're bad decisions. I'm just saying that these are the things to defend. You can't defend the education budget. It is what it is. It's what it is. At town meeting, we're going to be being asked hard questions and having to have good reasons for wanting the roads budgets to be as high as they are, carrying much of an increase.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying it's not warranted. I'm just saying that's where the push-pull is going to be.
That's why Hopkins is a hard sell for me, because I don't have it,
Well, and maybe by town meeting we will, and
But
that's
maybe we
fine.
will.
And the road commissioner in years past has done a fantastic job at town meeting of answering these
Mhm.
questions when asked, and I fully expect he'll come fully prepared like he always does. Thank you for the numbers, yeah. That's good. Thank you.
Sure.
You too can download this right on our website. and You can have your own Excel spreadsheet.
But
No, that was,
here and you'll
I
have a
know,
big screen.
I know, but I was
That's
just
great.
pitching it, I was pitching it to the members of the public who might be watching.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right, then you want a motion from us to support the numbers that we've included here?
Yes, please.
Great, well, I'll make a motion then finally to, that we support the numbers that we've got in, built into the budget right now. Second,
I'll second.
by Rufus, any other discussion on that?
So just to be clear.
Yep.
You were talking about
By numbers,
maintaining the 1.117.
That's on that memo. There's, 4 items that were on the calculator.
Yep.
There was a total of additional 236,000 added to that account line.
Yeah, so basically no change, just as
As
presented.
presented, yeah.
And then the 3 lines, there was also the line that took 50,000 out of capital building maintenance or capital
Yes.
buildings reserve because there's plenty of cash in there right now. And we're moving addition 50,000 of it into another account, which we already did. So this is just dropping that off of there. And then there's the movement of both of the schools have made modifications to their budgets, which I just want to recognize those changes.
Right.
So that we have a more accurate picture showing the 9.51%.
Like the adult ed. Is that what you mean?
Adult ed was already looped into GSB, but GSB's numbers changed since I initially presented a budget to you.
Yeah.
And the both secondary education also changed enough that it's big swings on both from what I initially had conversations on.
So forward with motions 11 and 13 through 16.
Yes. Thank you, Thomas.
so all I would ask is, does anyone else have any reservations or interest in changing Hopkins Hill? If not, I'm fine. I'm just looking to see if there's anyone else. I'm gonna support the budget if everyone else is cool with it. I'm just bringing it up.
Well, just,
So if everyone's cool with it, I'm good, but if anyone else has reservations, I think we should discuss it. So.
yeah, the only thing that I just want to be clear, because I asked you if you were just saying move it to a different, budget category, but you're saying actually withdraw that work from this
Till we have-
year's
till we have-
task list
Until
and
we have a plan.
move it into next year.
This makes me a little nervous to do that when it's been 3 years that Seth's been recommending we do it. It's the only thing.
Well, it's been in an additional work. There's issue up there,
Mhm.
as there's other places. I'm saying that the work plan that was presented
Right, we
to
don't
us
have one, right?
from our road commissioner for this year did not include this, and we added it. And he didn't know we added it until the workshop that we had. And he was like, yeah, I guess I can do, those numbers or whatever. That's the only reason, I'm bringing it up because our total is 1.17,500,000. That's a big number to say. It's almost 1.2 million. That's 1.1 million. 1.1. So it is what it is. I just, for those, I guess, 2 reasons. But that's all I would say.
I would hold no reservation on getting a better scope of work and putting it on 26. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
I think it's any little hiccup in the construction cycle this year could throw us off.
Yep.
And I don't think we need to put ourselves in that situation.
I'm with you. Who made the motion?
Me. So we can,
You can either vote on it, but we're
Just
Make an
amend the motion.
Well, we can amend the motion.
If you agree with it, but
I
I'll
don't
make
care which
these
way we
two-
go, but if we're gonna push that one off, because it's been pushed off for a number of years now, I think we need to come up with a good plan and keep that really up there on our list of priorities.
And when-
That road is
once we-
in rap shape.
Yeah, and once we
Yeah.
do get a road evaluation, which we plan to have by next budget season, then, it seems like it's gonna come to the top as one of the roads that needs to be addressed next, after doing the analysis of all.
It did sound to me like, when Seth was put on the spot and we were talking about it, that he could do some good stuff up there that it needs it. So I'm not diminishing that. I want to set us up for success here, and I don't want it to be a thing where this goes over budget and it makes the program look bad, or it makes what we're doing look bad. And again, the whole idea is these are the projects that were presented for the reasons that Seth presented the project list to us, so. It's my,
So if we pull it from this year's budget, we make it a priority for 26.
if that's part of the, I mean, that's part of the,
Or we make it-
I think that, and this is all I'll say is that in budget time, the select board gets really involved in roads, and we gotta do this one, and we gotta do this, and we gotta do this, and we gotta do this. And then, you know what happens right after town meeting? All the select board forgets about roads, and we don't care about this and this and this until we get to this thing and we get our roads thing. Oh, what about this and this and this and this? And that's why it's not good for us to really decide, like, it's good for us to be informed, it's good for us to make decisions, it's good for us to oversee it. But that's why we have a road commissioner, is to make recommendations on these projects and get them done. And again, we're politicians. Huh?
No, we're not.
We're not,
No, we're
but we're,
not.
Thank you.
we're.
Somebody said it.
Things
Yeah.
things can get political if we're making the decisions, I guess is what I'm saying. So,
But we have to be involved, because otherwise we wouldn't know how much
and that's
money.
true, I'm
money.
just saying, it should be a discussion,
Yeah.
like I said, and I think, again, it's a priority, we can put it on there, but.
Can I add one little thing?
Sure thing.
Back up.
Okay, just stay there.
Well, okay. I mean, there is a little bit of historical precedent for, this. You look back at the history of what we did on Lewis Hill Road. It was when we were switching, it began under one road commissioner and switched. We ended up throwing good money after bad money, or bad money after good money, however you want to say it, I don't know. We put way more money into Lewis Hill, over the top of the hill with culverts and ditching and reconstruction. And that road was in exactly similar shape that Hopkins Hill Road is in now. And we didn't have from the get-go a comprehensive approach on how to fix the conditions on the road. And we were concerned about budget, so we put a little money into it. Then we put a little bit more money into it, and we put a little bit more money into it, and then we had to go back and rip out some stuff that we did and put more money into it, and it just wasn't great. We ended up spending a lot more on that road than honestly we should have, because we didn't have it. And $150,000 on 7 million is chump change. So if you're nervous about it, pull it, put it on next year. Wait for a better solid recommendation.
Plain.
The benefit also of pulling it is that we go from just over 1 million to just under 1 million, and that might be easier for people to swallow.
Again, it's
I
one
mean,
way,
it's only,
one way or the other. It's still a watershed year. $150,000 here, there isn't gonna make or break the bank. It's just not.
Going off the history of the capital roads, we held flat last year, but it had been going up at a pretty modest increase. I don't think, it feels like with the number that we have proposed here, we're making up for last year's going flat. Maybe we just make another small step to increasing it, and we'll just keep on working on increasing that number in small increments, so it's not as big of a shock financially. I mean, we have to get to a bigger number. Do we have to get to the 1.2 million this year, or can we get to that 1.2 next year?
And I think it's. Yeah,
And there isn't a set plan for that $150,000 going in.
you think it's
Probably not 150 anymore.
Which, yeah, and the road commissioner said, 150 will do something, it's not gonna do all the pre-work that needs to be done on that road.
yeah, and I just, like I said, I just don't wanna do it.
No.
When we get that number, and we roll with that number, if that road is seen fit after an analysis, which it probably will, because it's in rough shape.
Yeah.
But if that number comes out to be 200 or 200 and whatever next year, then we'll have it in the budget for it.
Yeah, and it'll be money that well spent at that point, I guess is the.
We'll actually know what we're gonna get. for the
Yeah.
money.
And that's all I'm trying to get at.
And the reason that we actually started the 3-year road cycle program was to have a path forward to do this.
Yeah.
If it's not being proposed, the 150 isn't being proposed to put it into the cycle. There's no plan, we're not following our own plan.
That's what I was trying to get at,
Yeah.
is that
So-
we're just,
Put it in the plan, put it on next year.
Okay, so let's do a different motion or amend the emotion
Amend the motion to remove 150.
to reduce, well, to just that all the numbers being good other than the one taking out that.
It's if you modify that motion number 11 to be $86,669.
Motion number 11, page 11.
That's from the calculator.
800.
Oh, you're referring to a backlash? Yeah.
I don't have that in front of me. What's
Okay.
that?
You're just modifying, we talked about, Thomas had it well said about the motion. The motion is to approve 11, 13, 14, 15, and 16. And now that was the motion that was made. And now there's an amendment to the motion to modify line 11, which is motion 11, to read
Yeah.
86,669. I'm going to put that up on the
So that's
screen.
number 11, the capital roads. It's gonna increase 80 to.
86,669.
Instead of 236,699.
I'll share that.
Okay.
So moved. Or
Alright.
seconded.
Right. So we're approving 11, 13, 14, 15, 16 with the change of 11 to 86,669. Okay,
Oh, second though.
seconded. All right, all in favor? Yes, all right.
Okay, so now it's an increase of 6.95.
150 took it all the way down?
Yeah.
6.95?
Mhm.
Wow, that's nice. That doesn't seem like it should have that much of an impact.
It's a lot of money, I mean.
It is money.
I mean, that's,
I mean, when you're talking, no, millions, it, doesn't
that's
seem
half,
much.
that's 100, that was what we just took out with our roads budget when I first
I
started.
know, I saw some.
That was their entire roads budget.
The
when
year
I first
before-
started.
I found the paperwork for the year before I got on the board.
That was our
And
entire.
the
road
entire
budget.
roads budget for the year before I got on the board, the first time, 80,000,
What,
the whole thing.
okay, I know things were cheaper back then, but
Not that much.
Oh, it was potholes,
We
that was
weren't,
it,
we weren't doing
it was
anything.
potholes.
We weren't getting anything for that money. It's getting plowed up, but
that's.
I'm just saying, that's
insane.
the. This is why I take deep breaths when I do these things. It's not easy.
Okay, so I guess then we are on to town manager report.
Right, of course, we're there already. Sorry, I did not pull it up yet.
I'll start you off. We've ended our seasonal posting of roads.
Thank you. Yeah, that was yesterday, and I mentioned that during the workshop when Roger brought it up. The other item that's of relevance, the Community Resiliency Partnership. So back in January, we supported the service providers, Lincoln County Regional Planning Commission and the Coastal Rivers Conservation Trust. They were awarded as our service providers. So now we're in the stage of getting ourselves into the program. So we're working directly with them to start to plan community outreach aspects of it. There's some self-evaluation we have to do, which I'm working on with staff. We'll take care of that piece of it. I'll present it to you so you can see it at the next meeting. And then we'll probably launch the survey that night or the next morning, and get that out there for the public to participate in. And we'll look to do a community event in June. June 1st is, I think, the date we're looking to do.
What kind of community event?
It's community input on some of the things we can or should be doing with climate resiliency and what people might want to see us use any funding for, but also just visions of what Newcastle could look like or participate in trying to do this. It's almost like a mini comp plan focused on climate resiliency. So it'll just be a one afternoon event kind of thing. Charrette, maybe. Nomination papers are due Friday at noon. And then you've already mentioned Paul Bryant's passing. I put that in there as well. And then there's another item I've added. Another item I've added is special town meeting on secondary education budget. You guys have had to deal that every year. It's very confusing to me. So it's a point where I'm trying to, one, understand it. So we tack GSB right now has to have, and this will go away if that other article gets approved. But right now you have to approve the GSB, and that's done under their own meeting schedule. And what we do is we tack on the secondary education budget, which is our own school program. We have our own school board to deal with that. We tack that on as a special town meeting to approve it before then it goes on the ballot to be approved again. So I think it's supposed to be every 3 years, there's a referendum question that says, do you want to keep doing it this way? And for some crazy reason, many towns in Maine say, yeah, I want to keep doing it this way. When you could skip that point and just say, we have that special town meeting to approve the budget and we're done with it. It doesn't have to go on the ballot again. So it's very tight timeline. So right now they're proposing May 15th as that special town meeting. So I'll likely be bringing to you April 22nd, the language for you to call for a special town meeting with the warrant articles so that anybody who shows up to the special town meeting can either approve or not the secondary education budget so that it then can be on the town meeting warrant. So town meeting budget, the ballot side of it, June 11th meeting. Gotta love bureaucracy, right?
Yeah, and not that, I don't know why people vote to keep it that way, because hardly anybody shows up for the special town meeting to put it on the warrant. Yeah.
It's confusion.
It is confusing. I'm confused.
No, I mean, the reason it stays that way is.
Okay,
It's
so
confusion
about it.
Yeah.
It sounds progressive, like, yeah, of course I want to keep this on the ballot.
But I mean, you're not wrong in one sense, yeah.
That's what I have for tonight. I've had yeah. Oh, and the financial stuff. We're good. The next pages on that packet, there's page 4 and 3 and 4.
Yes.
It just looks at, I think we're in good shape for this fiscal year. I cross my fingers because I still worry about weather events and the impact that's having on our budget, but
Luckily, we're not. It's supposed to be a really bad hurricane season, so I'm glad we're out of that realm.
for now,
hopefully.
for now.
It gets warmer. Okay. All right, then do I have a motion to approve the fiscal year 24 19th AP warrant in the amount of $35,099.06? Moved by Joel, seconded by Tom. Does anyone have any questions?
It's a lot smaller than the last one.
It's a little one, yeah, by comparison. Pretty routine stuff, though. All good? Then all in favor of approving it? That says 5-0. And we're done.
I'm not gonna
Oh.
be, just before we,
Oh, yes.
before we actually get out of meeting, I'm not gonna be here. Our next scheduled meeting, I think, are we gonna be talking about how contract and whatnot at that meeting, because we had a good discussion at our last meeting, and reflecting on it and having some more conversations. There's more that I'd like to say
Okay.
regarding that, and if you guys don't mind, just give me like a couple of minutes.
Do we have a motion to amend the agenda?
If we need to, or it
Can you do,
put it
can you
in-
do a write-up?
Yeah.
And submit
Thank you.
that to me and I'll make sure it gets read into
Yeah.
the record as part of that conversation.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
I'm not gonna be here for that meeting, and I just,
Yeah, if you could, if you wouldn't mind writing up.
no, it'd
what
probably
you
be
have.
such to take you a lot less time. for me. I'm making, and stumbling, so
Okay,
I can write that.
great.
thank you.
All right, then I guess. A motion to adjourn the meeting at, what is it, 8:49?
Second.
Seconded, yeah, we're all in favor, yeah.
Thank you.
You're on the fence? You're outvoted, fence. All right, we're out of here. Cover?
I understand.